Good morning. Good morning to everyone. Again, my name is Shawn DeBerry Johnson, and I am the Mayor's Senior Advisor for Community Affairs. I will be your host this morning. If you need anything, please let me know. We are so delighted to have you, especially with all the beautiful snow. Thank you all so much for being here and coming out to hear about what's happening in Council District 7. Again, we do have Spanish interpretation for you if you would like to utilize those services. If you would like to utilize those services, we do have a table right out in the hallway, okay? At this time, we'd like to go ahead and begin our show for you today. When I say show, it's because we are going to have a fabulous time. We have wonderful presentations for you this morning. We have a whole host of activities for you in the Mayor's City Fair portion, quite a few activated tables, and lots to see, do, and be engaged in. So please, get ready for this morning. At this time, I am going to thank the mayor for being here, of course, and then welcome him to the podium. Yeah, we're going to get going.
All right.
I think we should do it.
Is the councilman speaking?
Yep, he is going to speak.
Good morning, everyone. So this is, normally the council person gets to speak first. Are we in order? I'll facilitate it. We're going to roll. All right. Well, we're going to, first of all, good morning, everyone. We're going to get rolling. Would you give Shawn DeBerry Johnson a round of applause, who's our coordinator? And we do have some great informative presentations for you this morning, and we're going to jump right into them. So I'm going to bring up John Martinez. Did I see him when I walked in? All right. Why don't you welcome, you are the substitute. The boss is the substitute. Our Executive Director of Parks and Recreation, Happy Haynes.
Good morning. He sent the poor substitute. John Martinez is feeling ill this morning. My name is Happy Haynes, and I am just delighted to welcome you to our home here in College View. We are back. Thanks to all of you, and thanks to our mayor. Still lots of work to do with all of you about the needs in the community and the kinds of programs that we will have here at College View. So I urge you to stay involved. Come to the meetings where we're talking about the kinds of programs and activities that you would like to see in your community. And it's kind of strange me welcoming you. It really should be the other way around. And we're thankful that you have welcomed us into your College View home and neighborhood. So thank you for being here this morning. Many activities. We will have staff here from Parks and Recreation. We will be welcoming some neighborhood-based programs to provide services and activities, and all of these will be in response to the kinds of things that we hear from you about what you would like to see happening in College View. So stay tuned to that. We do have a number of staff members from Parks and Recreation here. Please raise your hand. I would like to acknowledge the great team, the head of our Southwest maintenance crew for Parks. Jill is here. They do an amazing job, and give them a hand. They treat the parks in this neighborhood as though they were their own backyards, and I hope that you feel that way too. So just again, thank you very much for being here this morning. And I just want to say a word, it's usually we don't have this many people in our homes. And it's tight quarters, and there will be lots of conversation and views, and just encourage everyone to treat this as being in someone's home, and then we'll all have a great morning. So thank you.
All right, Happy. Thanks, Happy. We have a very dedicated and hardworking city council in this city. And I saw a couple members walk in this morning. I want to acknowledge the presence of City Councilwoman at Large, Robin Kanish, who's in the room. There she is. And we have Councilman Kevin Flynn up front here from across the street. And we also have our wonderful district attorney, Beth McCann, is in the house today. Thank you very much. And I'm glad I looked over because I also see our elected clerk and recorder, Deb Johnson, is here as well. Deb, thank you for being here. Were there any other elected officials that we missed as I came in? But I want to bring up one of the hardest working members of our elected pool of candidates, the elected pool of officials in the city of Denver. He is creative, he's smart, very dedicated to his district. You have been so ably represented over the last 4 years by this individual, and it's my pleasure to bring him to the podium. Give it up for the Honorable Jolin Clark.
Thank you and good morning and welcome to Lucky District 7 this morning. I am Jolin Clark, and it is a great honor for me to represent this part of town. And I'm so excited to have all of you, all of the community members, and I know that not everyone in this room is in District 7. We're right on the border of District 2. So to everyone and from across the city who is here, but also the opportunity to have so many folks who work for the city, who are in a position to help us with the things that we need and to making decisions for our neighborhoods every day, who are in this building to see and experience our community. Thank you for coming out and being here to hear from this community that I represent. So thank you. The mayor already acknowledged a couple of my colleagues, but I just want to give another shout out to Councilman Flynn. We share a border along Federal, so because somebody drew an imaginary line there, but this is a guy who that line has never meant much to he and I when we are talking and advocating for this part of town, and for especially, I want to give a shout out to him in that we have big changes coming to Loretto Heights, which is a place that is very special to me because that is in large part why I'm in Denver, because Loretto Heights is where my mother came out to college when she moved out here from Illinois. And Councilman Flynn has worked tirelessly to fight and fight some more and then fight some more and then maybe take a 5-minute nap and fight some more for this community to have a strong voice in that process, to get a small area plan going, and I'm being told that Tuesday is the next open meeting for people to come and provide input for that. So see, even now, he's not resting, he's advocating for that. He has been such an awesome partner working in this part of town. So let's give it up for Councilman Flynn. Yeah. And then Councilwoman Robin Kinich plays an interesting role on council. There are 13 members of council. 11 of us have those imaginary lines that say, hey, these are the people that we represent. Councilwoman Kinich represents every single person in the city. So you might not know, but you actually have 3 council people who represent you if you live in the city and county of Denver. You're 2 at large and your district. And Councilwoman Kinich has been another just amazing partner who was on council before I was, and someone who I have looked to help navigate the system and learn from, and has always been there immediately when there were district issues, there were issues that were important to this community, and even though she represents the city citywide, she jumps on every opportunity to be one of those voices for all of you. So let's please give it up for Councilwoman Robin Kinich. And I also saw she's got a new role and a new title, but I did see this morning Senator Aguilar. Oh, up here. Still a little early. I just wanted to give a shout out because, one, now we have the awesome opportunity to have her working directly for the city, but this is someone who has been fighting for this part of town for long before I was elected and is at all the meetings, just done a fantastic job. So yeah, give it up. Thank you for all your service. And I don't know if Representative Lontine is in the building today, but she is another person who just comes to all of the meetings when we need something and is there to back us up. So let's give it up for her, even if she's not here today. And Claire Harris has been involved in the neighborhood association here in College View for years and years and years. And she is one of the people who, when I was running for office, she grabbed me by the arm and she said, we need to talk. And I need to tell you some of the history about this community. And in the same form and fashion, she grabbed my arm this morning and she was like, can you make sure that everyone knows that we have a neighborhood association, a very small group of very dedicated people who meet in this building, and they meet on, I've got my marching instructions, second Tuesday of the month. She wants more people to get involved. So if you live in College View and you want to come meet some amazing people who are advocating for you every single day on a volunteer basis, you can email cvnadenver@gmail.com. And thank you to Claire and to everyone who comes to those meetings and does the hard work for that. And also who did grab me 4 years ago. And I remember when I was knocking on doors and meeting people in this community, and I was born and raised in Denver, but College View really is, the neighborhood we're in is a very special part of Denver that is different. I did not realize that there were places in the city limits of Denver where you could have a horse. And I was out on the campaign trail knocking on doors, and there's a horse in someone's yard. And to be able to sit down with the folks who've been here for years and years and years and listen to the history of how this didn't used to be Denver, and that whole process of annexation and running low on well water and needing city taps, but that pride that comes with the independence and the people who have built this community and have been a part of this community was just amazing. And one of the things that I heard again and again and again was how proud this community is of College View, specifically, because I'm going to talk about because we're right here, but how much they also felt like the city had never really listened to them. And how when they walk around in other parts of the city, they say, why do other parts of the city get this and get that and we don't? I even had people who said, you're the first person who's ever knocked on my door. And I don't even know who my councilman is now because they haven't come to a meeting. And for me, that was something that was highly impactful and that I've taken with me every single day on this job to work really hard to represent you guys and to bring that voice. And when this rec center was under threat of being closed for the second time, to step into that space, and again, my colleagues, Councilman Flynn and Councilwoman Kinich, we brought through council during the budget process and asked to fund and bring back this rec center and make it a Denver rec center, funded like other Denver rec centers are, and make sure that the doors remain open for the hours that serve the community. And our awesome mayor, when I sat down with him and said, hey, we've got to do this for the community, and council is behind this, he didn't even blink. He didn't say, hey, yeah, we have to look at it, we have to learn more about it. He said, we're going to make this happen. And you know what? Here we are in our rec center that belongs to the community. And now, here we are in our rec center with the mayor of Denver, with all of his cabinet, with all of these people who are the people who can help with all the issues that we're facing here in the house that belongs to the folks in College View and the people of Denver. The city is listening. We have a moment in time here to grab onto, so I hope that you will go after this into the other room and you will talk to people and you will share your hopes and your fears, your disappointments, the parts that make you sad that the city has not listened, because the city is here to listen now, and it doesn't get fixed overnight. Years and decades of missing the mark don't get fixed overnight, but we are on that path. This is the opportunity. It started with you, the residents of this community, and it only gets done with you, the residents of this community. So grab these folks who are in the room, grab these folks that you hear talking, and tell them your stories. I think at the College View, and I didn't ask you ahead of time, but I'm sharing your story if that's okay. Am I getting a thumbs up? At the last College View neighborhood meeting, which was last week, we were sitting around the table and talking about what was going on, and I'd come into the meeting and a story was shared. I'm pointing to you, but I don't want to out you too much here. But Bonnie told us that she has lived in this community for years and years and years and seen all the things that we've talked about that haven't happened, and was getting to a point where we have people dying trying to cross the street on Federal, and we have all of the issues that we're facing, where she was considering moving out of the neighborhood and moving somewhere else. But because the city has started listening, and because we are seeing the things that you'll hear more about that I'm not going to talk about, but other people are, the investment in this community, she said, why would I have lived here all this time when I didn't have that? When finally things we're being listened to and things are being fixed. And now I want to stay in this community. And that really, for me, is what this is all about. Let's create a city where the people who helped build it, the people who helped fight for it, want to stay here, are able to stay here and benefit from finally us fixing the things that need to be fixed. So thank you for sharing that story. That is what, for me, makes it possible for me to get up every day, miss a lot of dinners with my kids to keep fighting on behalf of this community. It is my honor and my privilege to have that role, to be a small part of that. And with that, we have the mayor of Denver in the College View Rec Center today. And so let's give it up for the mayor of Denver, Michael B. Hancock.
What a great story. Thank you, Councilman Clark, and I think he so appropriately laid out why we do the cabinet community. This is a unique concept here in Denver, and many mayors have asked about this concept of coming to cabinet community. It's almost like a foreign thing. You mean like everybody goes and hangs out with the neighborhood? And yeah, everybody goes. We show up on that Saturday on a quarterly basis. We sit there for 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, all the cabinets there, and we are working with the residents of this city face-to-face, one-on-one, answering questions, trying to hear concerns, but also celebrating some of the progress. And I'm so proud that we're in College View because the way he laid it out was exactly the way it happened. They came and said, we got to open this app back up to the people, and we said, let's do it. And we're glad that we're here today. So congratulations to all of you as well for being here today, but also for bringing your issues forward. So give yourselves a round of applause. You loved everybody else but us, but yourselves. So we do have a wonderful set of opportunities for you today. The way this normally works, we have a few brief presentations where we'll update you on some of the things that are really germane to your part of town. We have listened to the concerns brought by Councilman Clark, Councilwoman Kanish, Councilman Flynn. We track 311 calls into the city so that when we come into a neighborhood, we have a better sense of what issues are top of mind for you. And so today, we're going to give you an update on some of those issues. And we know that traffic and safety are huge for you over in this area. And so we're going to have our director of traffic here to update you on some of the things we're doing. I'm proud to tell you we're about to invest some $53 million along Federal Boulevard to continue with our efforts to install some safety features and to make it safer for all of us. And we've begun conversations with the new governor's administration about what we can do around Federal Boulevard to step up our game even more since it is a state highway. So I'm glad that we're going to have that presentation today. We're going to hear about our neighborhoods, our vulnerable neighborhoods today. And we're going to have your former state senator, Irene Aguilar, come up, who now runs our neighborhood equity and stabilization team, and talk to you about the progress we're making on that end. We're also going to have your commander come up, Commander Fleece, and our Deputy Chief of Police come up and update you as well on some of the safety steps that we're taking in the city. And then we're going to, let me make sure I got everybody else here. Oh, we're going to hear from the Office of Financial Empowerment. Obviously, keeping people in their homes, helping folks traverse this new growing and burgeoning economy is top of mind for us at the city. And our equity platform is being deployed to help those of us who might be made vulnerable by the prosperity of the city and by the changes in our economy. And so Jay Salas is going to come up and tell you about the Office of Financial Empowerment. I'm always proud when I walk into these cabinet community meetings because we have in the room some of the most phenomenally dedicated public servants who work hard every day on behalf of all of us who call Denver home. And you're going to get a chance to talk to many of them, those that you desire to talk to. But I'm going to ask you to do a couple things. We want to acknowledge, first and foremost, the men and women who are in uniform, who serve as our safety apparatus in the city, our police, our fire, sheriff, and paramedics, our first responders. Would you join me in thanking them for being here? And we also want to thank all of our cabinet and agency leads and staff members who've come out on this Saturday, this blistery Saturday morning, to be with all of us. And would you join me in thanking the public servants of the city and county of Denver? And I promise that's the last time I'm going to ask you to clap, unless you want to. Well, that's not true. One more. We know we're in the midst of the longest federal shutdown in the history of this nation. And my heart literally yearns and bleeds for the federal employees. I don't know about many of you. I'm sure there's people in this room whose parents and maybe some of you are public servants. And my mother was a state employee, and I know for a fact that we could not have withstood the loss of one paycheck. And the fact that yesterday thousands of our federal employees lost or missed a paycheck for politics, because of politics. And so today, I want to just celebrate our federal employees and know that your city is preparing to step up as well. On Monday, we're going to make an announcement that through our normal means of temporary rental and mortgage assistance program, we're going to invite our federal employees to apply, come see us, so we can help them with their mortgage and rent at the end of this month. And so we will have we'll have more details about that, but it's because of People of Denver we're able to do that. And it's because of People of Denver who stepped up and created the TRUA program, and we just added mortgage to it, that we're able to do that. And I am proud that we're able to do that, but we cannot allow this shutdown to last longer than past now. So let's get going, Congress, and let's get going, President Trump. So let me update you on a couple of things we're doing, and we're going to get going. First of all, you also may have heard last week we announced a new initiative called Turn Over a New Leaf. This effort is designed to expunge marijuana conviction, low-level marijuana convictions, offenses that are legal, would be legal today for city residents. And this is about equity in our communities. I've been very clear for the past several years that I believe the war on drugs have been devastating and disproportionately impactful on low-income communities and communities of color. And so those convictions that would no longer be crimes in Colorado, particularly around low-level marijuana convictions, our goal is to work with our county courts and our district attorney, who's a tremendous partner with us in this, to expunge, to seal, and to dismiss those convictions. We know they serve as a barrier to employment in the industry, employment in general for many people, but this is an opportunity for us to begin to right some of the wrongs from the war on drugs. So if you know someone who could take advantage of this, we want to invite them to go to denvergov.org/a-new-leaf to apply. Beginning February 9th, we're going to have clinics around the city of Denver. You can also find them at that website, where people can come and talk to district attorneys, city attorneys, volunteer attorneys about eligibility with these particular convictions. And so District Attorney Beth McCann, our City Attorney Kristen Bronson, if you're in the room, thank you for your leadership on this and making it happen for the people of Denver. You know, next we are really trying to promote this theme of home, a job, and a future. What we're working for is a progressive, modern city that really works to protect the environment to the benefit of everyone, meaning more parks. And thank you, Councilman Clark, for leading the initiative to create permanent funding for our parks and open space. But we want to continue to work on more parks for our neighborhoods and more opportunities for our kids, an economy that is diverse, but yet make sure that we don't leave people behind, that it harnesses and elevates our small businesses and creates affordable housing, affordable, accessible housing for all, including the missing middle in our community. Middle-class families are being strangled in this nation, and we see it here in Denver, Colorado as well. And so we have to work toward the middle as well. But we also want to remain a welcoming and inclusive city. We want to support our neighborhoods and make sure that we're valuing the contributions of everyone. That's why we're here to listen to College View today, because everyone in this city matters, and we recognize and want to continue to recognize that everyone in this city is Denver. So let's get to the presentation so you can see and hear some of the things that we're working on that you have brought forward and have illuminated as concerns and issues and opportunities in your neighborhood. First, I'm proud to bring up our Director of Transportation, who will give us an update on Federal Boulevard. You guys, would you join me in welcoming Jennifer Hillhouse?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning. Hi, my name is Jennifer Hillhouse. I'm the Transportation Planning Director for Public Works, and have a lot of exciting work that we're doing here in District 7 that I'd like to share with you today. These are just highlights, so please stay with us and come talk with us after the session, and we can go through a lot of the project highlights. Lots of Public Works team members are here to share that information with you. So for those of you that have lived in Denver for a while, it's no secret that we are a growing community. We just surpassed 700,000 residents in our city, and both of those opportunities, it brings challenges as well as opportunities. The challenge of more people are moving on our roadways. The opportunity is it gives us a chance to reimagine our roadways and how we move people more safely and efficiently. You might be aware that we recently completed the Denver Moves Transit, excuse me. And this is a plan, kind of the first step of the city that we're starting to think about what is our role in transit? How do we work with our partners at RTD? It sets a framework for what those corridors are that we need to be focused on, where the corridors are that move the most people, one of those being Federal right after Colfax. It supports regional and local transit systems by identifying local transit improvements, enhancing bike and ped, and really looking at important first and final last mile solutions. Federal Boulevard was identified in the plan as a high capacity corridor, and it's a very important corridor when we think about moving people. Both efficiently and safely. We've been studying this corridor for some time, for decades, this 9-mile stretch within Denver. And in the last couple of years, we've really refined that. We've been working closely with the community to understand what the needs are along the corridor, and we're ready to implement. And there is still some studying that needs to be done. We have a federal alternatives analysis that's just kicking off that we hope many of you will be a part of. And so look out for that. But it will really start to think about how not focused on transit and how we build that capacity, but also how we think about multimodal. We can't just think about one mode. We have to really think about everything, the people that are walking along, the people that are moving bikes into and out of, the people that are driving along the corridor. And so really thinking about each and every one that utilizes this crucial kind of spine within our city. Denver Vision Zero program has also taken a deeper dive into Federal, identifying it as a high priority corridor. We took a walk with the mayor, I think this summer, and learned a lot from the community on where we need to be focused. We're using data to drive our decisions to see where are these hot spots along the corridor, where do we need to focus to really make the difference with the investments that we have. Currently, Denver is starting improvement efforts along Federal, as I mentioned, and Mr. Mayor also mentioned about 58, almost 60 million now. The price just keeps growing, and the investment keeps growing on what we're thinking about. But that's between our partners of the Colorado Department of Transportation as well as the city. So strong investments being made. We know that there's a lot more need there, but know that we are thinking about it and really look forward to working with you more on what the opportunities are. Other corridors that we're focused on include Alameda and Broadway through our Elevate bond funding. $7 million has been identified to Alameda Underpass. So most of you know that there are challenges there through safety, and so it will really focus on, $7 million isn't a tremendous amount when we think about what the whole vision and the needs are there, but it's a first step to make sure that we have safety in our community. So really looking at reestablishing and rehabilitating the walls there, as well as safety as for our ADA communities and accessibility for all. We also have $12 million allocated to Broadway. This is a focus on a cycle track, but again, it's much more. We're thinking about the multimodal components of transit and bike and ped for our businesses, again, for people that walk, bike, take transit, and drive along the corridor. We're not only focused on these major corridors, although those are important to us, but we're also focused on the small intersections that have long-lasting impacts to our community. Recently, with the mayor's help and the community, really this was a community-led effort, and really excited to celebrate the completion of Valverde Safe Routes to School. So this was something that the community came to us with, that Councilman Clark talked about, that we are listening, we're here, and we want to begin to make this difference. So through this, if you're familiar, it's a high truck traffic speeds were a concern. So Denver Public Works and other city agencies, we come in and we installed 4-way stops at 2 intersections. We created pedestrian refuge islands. We have feedback signs. So, small improvements, but focused, and we understand those hotspot needs are crucial to make sure that our kids and our children can get to school safely. We're also, while we were out there, realized that there's no sidewalks connecting into the park of Barval Park. And so we're going to be out there with Parks Help and implementing some sidewalks. So not only safe routes to school, but also safe routes to parks. So I appreciate the time talking with you today. Again, these are very high-level highlights. You will see these boards that we have with lots of projects and efforts happening in District 7. So please stop by and say hi before you leave today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jennifer. We're going to get a chance to, you have a chance to visit the Parks, Public Works and Transportation table and to get deeper in these issues when we get into the fair section of this cabinet meeting. So thank you for being here, and I'm sure that there'll be more questions for you. Next up, we were proud, and about 3-4 years ago, to be recipients of a major Bloomberg grant. Before I get any further, let me welcome Councilwoman at Large Debbie Ortega has walked in the room. Thank you, Councilwoman, for being here. And out of this grant, we were able to create an office called the Office of Financial Empowerment. And in a transitioning economy, which we are having here in Denver on a scale that no one is having in the nation, it was important for us to have an office that would help people deal with issues around debt abatement, how to save their home or retain their home during transitioning times, increasing property taxes and valuations, transitioning communities, people who simply just didn't have the basics around financial management. And we identified this young man. I call him a young man. He's handsome, he's strong, he's smart. But he's been a tremendous partner in helping us to multiply the number of offices around the city. Even after the grant, the city has maintained commitment to the Office of Financial Empowerment. You're going to hear some wonderful news about stuff he's doing around the city to help our most vulnerable residents, all of us, quite frankly, around financial empowerment. Let's welcome Jay Salas, Director of the Office of Financial Empowerment.
Thank you, Mayor. I know you could have kept going on and on today, but we have a limited window of time. That's right, that's right. Anyhow, thank you. Good morning, and I am so honored to be here today here in South Denver. I spend a good portion of my time, and I know I say that when I go to a lot of different communities. I spent a good portion of my time living here. I was, lived just down the street. I spent a lot of time with my great crossover dribble in this rec center, and probably a lot of guys got their ankles sprained, trying to keep up with me. But that's a whole different conversation. But I am honored to be here. Thank you, Councilman Clark, for the great work that you've done. By a show of hands, who's heard of the Office of Financial Empowerment or Financial Empowerment Centers or Bank on Denver programs? Great. That's a great show of hands, but there were also hands that did not go up. And so we don't want to be the best kept secret in Denver. The work that we do is based around 5 pillars, which we call our economic ecosystem. And stabilized housing is one of our key pillars. So stabilized housing means a whole lot of things to a whole lot of people. And so without going too in depth with it, I'll kind of name those pillars. So stabilized housing being one of them. Transportation, that means everything from transit-oriented development to walkability to being first and last mile connectivity to transit lines in our low-income communities. We also focus on education and childcare. We have some staggering numbers around childcare. Almost 20% of our Head Start students in Denver are homeless, and that's something that doesn't sit well. Yeah, absolutely, it doesn't sit well. We have a great Head Start program. We have partnerships with Office of Children's Affairs, but we need to do more. And we're working with them right now to develop a plan, working with our NEST team, working with Denver Human Services, with a number of organizations, North Denver Cornerstone Collaborative. I know I'm trying to read it. To have an impact on education and childcare. And when we think about education, it's not just working with the families that are struggling to stay in our communities, but it's also our school teachers. How do we help attract and retain good quality educators when they themselves are having a hard time with staying in living and working in their communities without having a long commute that adds extra dollars? So we're working both with the educational systems, the child care systems, and also a two-generation approach with our families. We're also focused on health, and that means mental health, physical health, financial health, which even though that they have different names, they're all one and the same. The number one cause of health issues is stress. The number one cause of stress is finances. And so there is no difference between physical, mental, and financial health. It is one and the same. We also support jobs and entrepreneurship. We have financial empowerment centers and financial coaching, free financial coaching at all of our workforce centers. And so we're continuing to add to those services at our workforce centers. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about the Financial Empowerment Center program, because we offer one-on-one financial coaching. Tax season is just beginning to get underway, and so we also provide free tax services at our sites for those that may not have the funds or are struggling to pay the $300 or $400 that, to go to H&R Block or one of the other places. We do offer free tax services. I don't know if Lydia Reuter is in the room, but if she, go ahead and stand up, Lydia. So Lydia is one of our financial coaches. She was actually our very first financial coach when we launched the Financial Empowerment Centers in 2013. And I want to also talk about, we're bringing on 3 new additional coaches, and we have one of those coaches that we've already hired and brought on. And so if I can have Laura Garcia Villalpando stand up. And when Jolan Clark talks about we listen, we not only listen, but we act. And when we talk about acting, bringing on these additional financial coaches to help build capacity within our city, since we've launched this program, we're on the verge of breaking the $5 million mark with our residents to reduce debt. That is debt that's paid, gone away. And many of those residents, they're not residents that have a whole bunch of expendable income. Most of those folks that have walked through the doors have said, I don't know how I can save money, how I can pay down my debt. I'm juggling bills. The check ends before the end of the month. But with these great coaches, the training that they received and their dedication and our partnerships with other departments, we've been able to help reduce that debt, help people develop savings. When we talk about the government shutdown and we talk about generally in the United States, 60% of our population does not have $500 for an emergency. That is staggering. We have helped to change that. When the mayor's office recently contacted us and said, how is the government shutdown affecting your clients? We did have people, it does affect our clients. But one of the things our financial coaches, what Lydia said, was that, we've helped our residents save for rainy days. We've helped build an emergency fund. Yes, they're having to dip into those emergency funds, but it's much different conversation than it would have been before financial coaching, where they would have not had that emergency fund. It would have affected their credit scores, potentially living in their homes and those types of things. So it's a great thing that we have these programs to help mitigate, issues like this. Secondly, with our Bank on Denver program, we are also working with our financial institutions. Yesterday, Chase just released some information on a loan program that they're giving to government workers, federal workers, to help them get through these times. Denver Community Credit Union, who is also one of our partners, is also doing the same thing. And so we're actively working with our Bank on partners right now to ensure that we're helping our residents not affect their credit scores and continue during this time of government shutdown. So we're really trying to be proactive and really support our residents. And lastly, I'll just say we're getting ready in April to launch our Consumer Financial Protection Division, which will be in our office. And that, the mayor has been very, very vocal and working with us to say, we want to have a level playing field for all of our residents to ensure that our most vulnerable populations, like our seniors, working with the DA's office around developing further capacity around prevention of elder financial abuse and fraud that's going on. And so we're very excited to launch all of these initiatives. And I'll kind of stop there because really the magic happens out in that room. We'll have Lydia and we'll also have Lauda out there and myself to talk to and talk about how you can become engaged. If it's you, if it's someone in your community, if it's our youth, to get them involved in the work that we're doing and really help build a Denver that is prosperous for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. As you can see, a lot is happening, and I didn't realize it's been now 6 years since that grant. I think I said 3 or 4 years ago when we received that grant. But a lot's going on, and they're doing phenomenal work, so thank you all for being here. The next person, Jay mentioned housing stabilization, or stable housing for individuals as a first step, of course, to all of our security and peace of mind. And when we talk about the issues of displacement and gentrification, those are words that roll off people's mouths, but they're much more complex in their execution and their impact and how they, over a period of time, come into play. And that's why we designed the Office of Neighborhood Equity Stabilization. And we turned to a veteran of Denver and Denver government and Colorado state politics and state government to help us lead this effort. As I bring her up, I also want to acknowledge the presence of Ishmael Guerrero, who is the Executive Director of Denver Housing Authority, who helped the city find a pathway to double its investment in affordable housing to $300 million last year. Thank you for being a valuable partner, Ishmael. And with that, it's my pleasure to bring up the Executive Director of NEST, your former state senator and now a great continued public servant in the NEST directorship, Irene Aguilar. Thank you.
It's so great to be back here in my community. As many of you know, I live directly west of Loretto Heights College, and so I've gotten to participate in meetings with all of you over the years. You may be wondering what this is about. You know, I was trying to think of how do I make people remember Nest. So these are my eagle wings. And if you know Latin, which none of us do, Aguila is the Latin word for eagle, so my husband says that I'm an eagle. So I can take it off now because I'm boiling to death. But anyway, I am so honored and pleased to join the city's team. It's been a daunting transition. Once again, I'm drinking from a fire hose. But as those of you who've known me over the years know that one of my passions is helping the vulnerable people in our city. And thankfully, that's a passion that's shared by our mayor. He's been very proud and pleased of the growth that we've had in our city, of our economic recovery, but we've all seen that this has not been spread equitably across all populations. And really part of what makes Denver so unique is its culture and character. And as we grow, we run the risk of losing that culture and character. And so in his July State of the City address, the mayor announced a new initiative to look at how can we proactively look at preserving the culture and character of Denver's community. And as you know, much of the culture and character comes from its people. And so in doing that, we are going to need to help people who have lived in Denver for years and called it home be able to stay here and benefit from the growth. As I started this program, I was warned there's actually no city in the nation that is doing this and has this type of program, so I can't just go and ask somebody what to do. The good news is that there are hundreds of organizations in our state, including the Denver Housing Authority, and probably thousands of people in our city, including Councilwomen Kanich and Ortega and other leaders in the Councilman Brooks, looking at this issue. And so I've been able to sort of learn from everyone and figure out what we as a city can improve in terms of what we're doing to try and help people stay in our city. And so I don't have to create a lot of things. I just need to find the things that are already there and pull them together and get them pushing in the same direction. So our goals are to do a lot of outreach and collaboration, not only within the city, but outside of the city. We have a lot of wonderful nonprofit organizations in our city and state that are focused on helping vulnerable communities. I don't know how many of you know this, but in polling done in Colorado a couple of months ago by the Colorado Health Foundation, the #1 issue that came up was housing across parties, Democrat and Republican, and the affordability. And so as a result of this, our own Colorado Health Foundation has opened a new office focused on housing, because we know that if you don't have a safe place to live, you cannot maintain your health. And so I'm really excited about the possibility of bringing new players in together to talk about how we help our communities. The other thing is that, as you heard from Jay and his Office of Financial Empowerment, and even from Transportation, there are already lots of people in the city looking at trying to help our communities meet their needs. One of my jobs is to make sure that we all know what the other person is doing, and that as much as possible we coordinate and prioritize our efforts. And our ultimate goal is that we help the people who are born and raised here not need our help anymore in the future. We help them to get the financial empowerment they need to be able to stay in our city and continue to contribute to our city. We are planning to have neighborhood efforts focus on neighborhoods we know are going to be experiencing change in the future. We are also working together with people like North Denver Cornerstone Collaborative to work on neighborhoods that are already experiencing change. And like you, I'm interested in what will happen with the purchase of the Loretto Heights property. And we want to make sure that that becomes a model property for how we can do mixed-use development in our city, and again, benefit the people who've lived in this part of the city and keep you even happier that you stayed here even longer. Because it's time for Southwest Denver, and you've got an insider there trying to push for it. So thank you for that. I want to also tell you that because of a lot of work that's been done before me, so I can't take credit for this, there are a number of things that are coming forward in the housing field that you should know about. The mayor mentioned the expanded investment with the Denver Housing Authority. The council and the mayor actually just worked together to expand our low-income property tax, and it will now reach more single, senior, and disabled folks, as well as low-income family homeowners who have children. And our Department of Human Services here has information about that. This program will be taking applications for the 2018 tax season starting on May 1st. And so if you are interested in this, please visit the table of our Department of Human Services. As of January 1st, because of work done by your city council and mayor, it is now illegal to turn anyone away from renting or buying a home that they can afford because of how they plan to pay for it. We had seen in the past housing discrimination related to whether people had vouchers or other ways for paying for housing. And thanks to the work of our mayor and our city council, this is not now illegal. And so if you run into issues with that, make sure you reach out for assistance. As you heard, we have doubled the housing fund this year. We've built a record 1,200 new homes. We've supported almost 1,000 people with temporary rental assistance to help them stay in their homes. And there's more information on those programs at the Office of Economic Development table, and I'll be right next to that with Nest. Finally, if you or someone you know is low income and struggling with eviction, this year the city launched a free legal service program run by the Colorado Legal Services, where you can call them or go down to the fourth floor of the city and county building any morning between 8 and 10 and ask at Councilwoman Kanich's table for a flyer to get help with eviction. Most people who are facing eviction show up without any legal representation, and that really tilts the table against those who are most vulnerable. And so the city is working very hard on that and has increased its investment in legal protections for people who are facing eviction. We have a new legislature, and I'm really bummed I didn't get to be there with the Democratic House, Senate, and Governor, but I had the opportunity to read about a number of their platforms, and I can tell you that affordable housing and displacement is at the top of a lot of lists, and many things that have been taboo in the past will come forward in the legislature this coming year. As a city person, I'm not going to be there doing it, but I would hope that all of you as engaged citizens will be there helping push forward these efforts, because the way you build power is through public policy. And I am here as well to look at the public policies that the city has and make sure that these policies end up being tilted more towards the everyday citizens who are living and have lived in Denver for many years. And I am always open and interested in meeting with you or your organization. In fact, I walked in here and met a woman who told me she and her family have lived in Southwest Denver all her life, and one of her family members moved because of financial challenges. And so I've asked her to reach out to me so I can hear what's happened there and hear from her and see what resources we can offer to keep her here in the city, because without you, Denver is not going to be Denver. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. All right, we're almost to the fair portion of the day. We have one final report, and this is the one that I'm sure you all want to hear about, is the safety report. Commander Fleece, I understand, is not here with us, but as we bring up Division Chief Ron Thomas, I want to acknowledge the presence of our Director of Safety, Troy Riggs, and our Police Chief, Paul Smiley Pazin, who are both here. Would you stand up so people can see you?
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning. I want to begin by, by explaining, I do have a connection to this neighborhood as well. Many, many years ago, actually coached Little League football for a team that some of you may recall, the Blue Knights. Many years ago, I coached the Blue Knights, and so do have a connection to this community and honored to be back presenting to you guys again. So I'd like to begin by providing a little bit of background that I think will put some of my comments into perspective and context. So as you know, back in July, Chief Pazin was identified as the next police chief for Denver. He quickly came aboard and restructured the police department with the goal of being much more nimble and responsive and effective with regard to responding to crime. Part of that effort involved many of the unit and division commanders getting together early in the week to identify new challenges, kind of measure our success with current challenges that we had previously identified and see how we needed to move forward. We feel like that model has proved to be successful. We began 2018 with some notable increases in crime. And although we're still kind of tabulating some of the results for the end of the year, we believe that we're going to be about flat in just about every crime category, whether we're talking about violent crime or property crime. This process has also allowed us to dig a little bit deeper into the numbers. We have identified that we had a disturbing number of violent crimes committed with guns. Also, a lot of intimate partner violence that spiked our aggravated or assault numbers, which has informed our strategic plan focus on domestic violence prevention. Is also kind of doubling down on some of our partnerships with other agencies to enhance our ability to go after gun crimes. So we don't solely focus on crime in these strategy meetings. We also focus on traffic, identifying those locations where we find a lot of serious accidents, high-frequency accident locations, and look at causes for these accidents and ways that we can prevent accidents from occurring, whether it's through education, enforcement, or collaboration with our community partners. Specific to West Denver, we've worked with other agencies to increase safety along Federal Boulevard, as we saw numerous serious accidents and auto pedestrian crashes over the past 3 years. We've worked, again, with our city partners to improve lighting. Signal timing has been adjusted. We've also worked with RTD to enhance bus stops, and sidewalks, as I think you've heard, are being added, which will improve walkability. Important to our outreach and education efforts, partnering with One Federal and Vision Zero. And through all these efforts, we have seen some significant reductions, particularly with fatal crashes. But again, our vision is zero, so we recognize we still have some work to do. Another issue I know causes great community concern is traffic safety around schools, and we currently partner with DPS and traffic engineering and our community to identify these concerns around schools, and then we send out task forces to identify locations where enhancements would be important, and then work collaboratively to identify solutions for these locations. So I understand that we'll be breaking here fairly soon, and I brought with me representatives from District 4 and District 3. I realize there's probably several questions with regard to safety in your own individual neighborhoods, so we'll be happy to answer those at the conclusion of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. That concludes the presentations. I hope you got a little bit to start you into the fair, maybe direct you where you want to go to get further information. What we're going to do is ask everyone to stay in their seats. I believe when you came in, on your seat was a survey. No? Okay, raise your hand if you didn't get it. That's about everybody. All right. Do we have them? They're going to pass them out. I'm going to bring Sean back up here to direct us what we're going to do at this point.
Let's give our presenters a hand. Fabulous job, everyone. Fabulous job. A lot going on in your community. So glad you're here. Again, we have surveys for everyone. We found that when we give you the surveys in this portion, you leave to go to the city portion. So we're going to just go over there and meet you there. Okay? We really want you to fill out these surveys. Let me explain something. We put these on so that you can have the mayor and his cabinet in your community. We need to know what you want to hear about. We need to know what's important to you and how you feel about what you're celebrating and the challenges you're having. If you don't complete the surveys, you leave it all up to me. We want to hear from you. So we're going to pass out the surveys, and we're going to ask you to please fill those out. That includes city employees that are city residents. Thank you so much. At this time, I'm going to ask that everyone stays in their seats. If you have a table in the city fair portion, please head back out this main door. If you have a table, out the back door and over to the city fair. All right, everyone's dismissed. Thank you very much.